let's see if I can get through this video without too many distractions. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, all about my life after gastric bypass surgery. My name is Stephanie. I've already lost 100 pounds and I'm well on my way to another 100. Today's video is all about what your diet should look like post-op, probably, several months post-op. More specifically though, whether or not you should be eating a ketogenic diet, which seems to be a very frequent question. So I'm going to kind of delve into the pros and the cons and some of the information that I've found about this. The very first thing that I should establish though is that I am not a healthcare professional. I am not a dietitian or a nutritionist. The information in this video is solely based off of research that I've done, my own personal experience, and my own personal thoughts. I always highly recommend that you talk to your healthcare team, your surgery team, if you have a nutritionist or if you have a local nutritionist that you can reach out to. Everything is very individualized, so you should not be taking diet advice in general from the internet. That being said, keto is kind of a really big thing right now, and there are a lot of questions all the time about whether or not you should be eating keto after surgery. There also seems to be a general misconception, which I think needs to be addressed as well. Because you're encouraged to eat high protein, low carb after surgery, people automatically seem to think that that means keto. I think it really needs to be addressed what low carb, high protein means, what keto means, and what are the pros and cons with that. Because there have been some studies done and there is some information out there. But before I get into anything, because I know I'm gonna get some people who are high keto advocates here, and I just want to say, if it works for you and if you like it and you think it's sustainable, then disregard this, because ultimately I still don't think that weight loss is a cookie cutter topic. If this works for you post-surgery, then absolutely. I think everybody should be doing what works for them post-surgery. Everybody should be doing what makes their bodies feel good and what keeps them fueled and motivated to keep going.
Do you, boo-boo. Do you, boo-boo. You know why? Because I'ma do me.
So now that I've got that stuff out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty about keto. Now, just a general overview of what keto is in case you're not really familiar, and the very oversimplified concept. So keto is short for ketosis, which is a state that your body can naturally go into when you're burning fat. I think people seem to get all caught up in like what is fashionable and what's trendy right now, and people seem to forget that the keto diet has been around for a long time. In fact, the keto diet was really popular back in the 90s, early 2000s as the Atkins diet. If you are familiar with the Atkins diet, that's the same diet. It's just been rebranded and kind of turned into something trendy again. Keto has the best publicist. I swear, whoever can get me in touch with Keto's publicist, because people have this idea of Atkins that they don't feel about keto, but they're the same thing. It's the same exact concept. So the oversimplified version is that your body normally gets its energy from burning glucose. So the carbs that you eat are typically burned for energy. That's why you see a lot of athletes do carbo loading and things like that, because your body naturally is running off of carbs as your energy source. But when you run out of carbs and you deplete your glucose reserves in your body does actually switch over to burning fat, which is ketosis. Now, obviously, this is evolutionarily something really great for us, right? I mean, we put on the fat to use later, and then we can use the fat later when we don't have any glucose to burn for energy. So it is a natural state of our body, although I don't think your body is really meant to like be in ketosis for long periods of time. But I'm not a scientist. Again, I'm not a healthcare professional, so I don't know any of the nitty-gritties about that. But that is the oversimplified version, is that your body switches to burning fat instead of glucose or carbs. Now, again, when people say eat a low carb diet, it seems like most of the time people automatically think, oh, that means keto. I need to be eating low carb. That's keto. But keto is not just low carb. There are a lot of ways to eat low carb, but keto traditionally has you eating about 70% of your diet as fats, 25% as protein, and only about 5% as carbs. So yes, it is low carb, but it is also high fat. Now, this video could go on forever if we want to talk about all of the misconceptions about the diet industry and everything.
And the truth shall set you free!
High fat diets or low fat diets, they are not what people have made them out to be. Eating high fat isn't necessarily a problem, as evidenced by the success people do have on keto. But when we're talking about the context of weight loss surgery patients who are post-op, we are given different macros that we should be aiming for. Now, those percentages and those macros really kind of differ with each surgery team, with each nutritionist. It is not the same thing across the board, but it is generally agreed that weight loss surgery patients should not be eating 70% of their macros in fats. What you typically kind of see is more of a 35, 25, 40 split, where you have 35% in protein, 25% in carbs, and 40% in fat. Again, that does vary individually from each nutritionist, from each surgical team, so that is by no means a general statement, but I think about 40% fat is the highest that you're going to see with weight loss surgery patients, at least what's being recommended. Okay, so we're talking about keto, we're talking about these macros and these percentages, but what does that really mean, especially if you're not familiar with the keto diet? So what we typically think of, what almost everybody will think of when you say keto, is what is considered dirty keto. Dirty keto is when you're eating bacon and cheeseburgers without the bun, melting cheese into chips, turning cheese into taco shells or into wraps. Chaffles. Chaffles are a really big thing right now. I'm sure we can all really kind of picture certain meals in our head. It's just cheese. Like, I mean, seriously, if you can think about keto, like, how many different ways can we eat cheese and meat together? Like I said, that's called dirty keto. That's not the only way to eat keto. In fact, you can eat keto in a relatively healthy, balanced way with various different kinds of leafy green vegetables. Fruit tends to be more towards the lower end in terms of sugar, so you're getting a lot of berries. And then you would get your fat intake from things like healthy fats and oils, avocados, things like that. You can eat keto in a clean, I use that word really sparingly, but in a healthy kind of way. But unfortunately, that's not really what people think of, and that's not really the glamorous side of keto. People see keto and they say, wow, I can eat all of this meat and cheese in various different forms and I'll lose weight. That's amazing.
What?
But why is it that weight loss surgery patients shouldn't be eating like that? Eating high amounts of fat has been linked to gallbladder issues and gallstones, and I did a previous video on gallbladder issues. I'll link it up here. The higher fat diets can cause that problem if you couple that with the rapid weight loss that you're getting from weight loss surgery. You could be kind of ramping up the percentage that you might have a gallstone issue. Keto traditionally, again, like I said, is really only about 25% protein. And so if you're not getting enough protein after your weight loss surgery, you can start losing muscle mass instead of fat. So essentially, when we're losing weight rapidly, we're not just losing fat. It's not possible with what's going on. So staying active and eating high protein helps to preserve as much of your muscle mass as possible so that you're not atrophying your muscles and losing muscle weight and water weight over losing fat. It's really important to make sure that you are maintaining high amounts of protein, and typically keto as written is not usually a high protein diet, although it could be. Okay, but what if I did keto like a little bit modified and a little bit healthier? Would that fit better? Maybe. Again, I think everything is very individualized, and I think each person needs to do experimenting and finding out and really being in tune with your body, what works for you and what works not only physically, but mentally as well. And one of the problems that can come with a diet like keto, which is very restrictive, you have a lot of food rules. There are a lot of foods that you can't eat, and especially if you get involved in any of the keto communities or anything, you're going to get a lot of information about what you should and shouldn't be doing. And that makes it a very restrictive diet, and it can be problematic. And we're talking about the mental side of things now. If you have a very restrictive diet, it has been statistically shown that that can be extremely problematic, especially when you're talking about people who've been in and out of the diet industry, in and out of fad diets, trying to lose weight for a long time. When we're stuck in that diet mentality, it can be extremely hard to get out. A lot of us can probably find solidarity in having an unhealthy relationship with food. And when you add in restrictive diets and food rules, it makes it really difficult to get out of that cycle of always feeling like you need to have some sort of fad diet, or you need to be eating a certain type of way, or you're not going to get the results that you want or be the person that you want to be. My opinion is that restrictive diets have caused huge food problems of so many people over the years, and they are the thing that we need to be getting away from. I completely understand that doing things in moderation or intuitively eating can be extremely hard for people, myself included. But one of the things that I've been working on in this process is trying to have a better relationship with food. And that means that I don't have a yes and no food list. Everything is okay for me to eat, but it's about moderation, and it's about choosing the things that are going to help me and nourish me and fuel me over the things that aren't. But if you're eating a very restrictive diet, you don't have any wiggle room to be able to say, I'm going to have a bite of that piece of cake because it's my great aunt's birthday and I don't know if she'll make it to the next one. Sorry, I got very dramatic there. But food is food. It is so important for people to stop labeling food as being bad. It's okay to have sweets in moderation. It's okay to eat a piece of bread if you want a piece of bread. It's about balance and moderation. I no longer eat bread all day long. That's a huge thing. Because ultimately, this is about long-term sustainability. Whatever you're doing now, post-op, needs to be something that you can maintain for the rest of your life. Because if you can't, and if you don't, you can regain your weight. And people do. I am a strong believer that a huge part of that is because we never get out of that diet mentality. And so you continue to restrict yourself after surgery, but you never learn how to just sustain. And so by the time you've lost all of your weight and you now need to maintain and just live for the rest of your life, you never took the time to learn how to eat appropriately or have a good relationship with food. And a lot of people just swing really hard to the next side and they go back to their old habits because they don't know and they haven't been working on for years how to have a healthy relationship with food. That is going to be one of the most difficult parts about this journey, is mentally preparing yourself for the rest of your life. You're not in a diet anymore. That's not what this is. You shouldn't be going into surgery continuing with this idea that you're going to be on a diet to lose your weight, because that's not the answer. If you look at the stats, if you look at the information and the research that's been done, consistency is the key. Maintaining something for an extremely long amount of time and being consistent is where that success is. And that's not easy to do, especially if you're someone like me who has been gaining and losing weight their whole life. I don't know how to maintain. I don't know how to lose all of the weight and then keep it off. I've never done that before. I have to teach myself how to do that, and I have to prepare myself for that. And that's not going to be fast or easy. So I'm going to start now. In my opinion, if you're in a situation like me where you've had a very unhealthy relationship with food for a very long time, you are not going to fix it by just finding the next diet plan. It hasn't worked for me for years. Why would it suddenly start working now, especially when all of the research is against that? In all the research that I did for this video, one of the studies came to a conclusion that I think really summarizes what I'm trying to say. Weight loss success is probably more easily achieved for those who follow up with their healthcare providers, exercise, and find a nutritional plan that they're able to commit to for a long time, or ideally a lifetime. So you have to find what works for you and something that you can commit to for a long time. It's probably the hardest thing that you're gonna do, but you have to get yourself out of that diet mentality and out of trying to figure out what foods specifically are going to work for you and start working on the mentality behind it. Because it's not the food that's the problem. It's the mental side of things behind the food. And it leads us to eating things out of balance and eating things that don't agree with us when we're not paying attention, because we're being run by our taste buds and not by our brains and how we feel. If keto is that long-term thing for you, then by all means, go for it. I still think you should probably talk to your healthcare provider because the jury's still out and there's still not a lot of studies right now about what the long-term success or the long-term complications are with keto. But I'm always going to tell you to go talk to your doctor about stuff. Thanks so much for watching and hearing my hot take on keto. If you heard peeping and clinking and little pitter patters, the ducklings are right here underneath me, just enjoying their life. So they may have been a little bit loud through this video, so I apologize. Please consider liking this video if you liked it, subscribing if you're not already a subscriber, and ringing the notification bell in case you want to get notified whenever my videos go up. I am trying to stick to a Tuesday schedule at this point, so hopefully that works for you. I'm gonna go play with some ducklings now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.